Welcome to the Get Creative Podcast. I've got one of my good friends, Bill Faith. Guys, have faith. Airbnb is a great strategy. We're going to be debunking some of the things that are going around the ethos of real estate. People are saying Airbnb is dead. I think Airbnb is well and alive. In fact, this man runs one of the coolest events I've ever spoken at in Nashville. My gosh, I show up to this thing, 3,500 freaking people in one place. Massive, massive, massive event. And everybody's got smiles on because they're learning so much from this man. Bill Faith, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
Thanks for having me, Pace. I'm excited to be here.
Fellow Montanian, part-time Montanian.
I almost wore a Montana shirt just for you today.
In my mind, I live in Montana 100% of the year.
I agree. You should probably spend more time there.
Yeah, we're going to be flying up there in the next couple of days for Thanksgiving. When do you guys spend Montana?
I will be back on December 4th, actually.
Cool.
For
skiing
ski
and all that
season.
stuff?
Hopefully I'll see Jerry. I think they're coming back. I'm probably going to be there about 40 days during the winter.
Wow.
When I get into something, I'm like all in. I'm like totally obsessed, addicted. So as soon as we leave here, heading straight to the airport, flying to Copper Mountain to go skiing.
Wow,
for a few
dude.
days. It's kind of crazy.
Well, guys, Bill Faith, if you don't know him already, he focuses on short-term rentals. He's got an amazing tribe, people that I've spoken to before, people that are crushing it. And, you know, I meet a lot of influencers people, as you can imagine. I know you do too. You travel around the world, people are like, oh, I'm in this person's tribe, I'm in this person's tribe, etc. And I'll tell you, maybe 4 people in the entire education industry have positive reviews on every single person that you talk to and go, how's this person's program? Oh my gosh, Bill Faith is the best. Bill Faith, so many amazing compliments that I get about you. And so grateful to be your friend. But let's talk about Airbnb.
Okay.
If somebody comes up to you and says, Airbnb is dead, what is your answer to that question?
I say it is.
Oh,
for about 60 to 70% of the industry.
Okay.
That's doing the exact same thing they did during COVID, which is buy a property in any town USA, putting a couple of bucks into renovation, and then going back to being a dentist or whatever they do.
You know, I'll tell you exactly, that's what happened to me in COVID. I was doing it incorrectly. Have been recently, like some of the Airbnbs I have now still in my portfolio, I'm basically learning from you, how do I actually make these good stays that are above the average? All my Airbnbs that I've gotten rid of are exactly what you just said. I bought a property anywhere USA. Oh, it doesn't cash flow as a rental? Cool. I'll turn it into an Airbnb.
Well, you could spend $500,000 in Atlanta as an example and generate $125,000, but now that's probably a $60,000 to $70,000 property.
Right.
And you're probably barely able to break even. If you're doing regular financing, if you're doing what you specialize in, you're probably able to turn a profit. But
yeah,
I say 60 to 70% of the people, I think the issue, Pace, is you use the word influencers. There's a lot of influencers in the Airbnb space, and they're selling the 4-hour work week. Yeah. They're selling the automation of just VA this, VA that. And as Chris knows, who's been with me for 7 years, so he's seen the whole maturation through this.
Dang, bro, ever since you got a driver's license? That's sick.
It takes work.
Yeah.
So if you do long-term rents or midterm, I mean, there's work to get started, but then you still got to do maintenance and stuff, but you don't have to do revenue management. You don't have to do ongoing marketing. It's like any other business. That's where I'm a little bit different is, I'd done 31 startups before I started doing this, and I apply the standard business principles. So for me, sales and marketing is almost more important than product or service in most cases.
Agreed.
Right?
I mean, think about that for people that are out there that don't understand why he would say that is, think about there's better products out there. Frequently there's better products. But if they don't have sales and marketing, who freaking cares? It's not going to ever make it to the market.
100%.
Okay, keep going. Sorry.
So I spend the majority of my time for my owned portfolio, and then I'm a co-host, so I manage some properties too, on sales and marketing. And sure, and people think that I kind of branded the term, you have sub 2, I'm super property, super portfolio, super life, right?
Yes.
But I'm writing a book, and it's called 2 Extra Steps. I'm the guy that's made my wealth out of doing the stuff that other people are too lazy or unwilling to do.
Dude, I was thinking about this morning. Here it is Saturday, right? You and I are filming. You flew in to do a podcast with me. And I'm sitting here thinking about this one-on-one I did with this guy this morning off Instagram. He sends me a DM. Every once in a while, I'll just go, that's a really interesting question. You obviously are stuck. If I do a one-on-one with you, I can take that content and send it to 100,000 other people that have the same problem. So he's just mentally stuck.
What did you charge him to do that?
Nothing. Zero.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was just like, I go, if I can answer your question and also I can learn your problem and where you're stuck, I can help other people, and this will actually educate me on how to, how to communicate with you on the level you're at, meeting you where you're at. Basically, the problem that he's in right now is that he just doesn't do 2 extra steps. He does exactly what the status quo is, nothing more. He's not willing to wake up early. He's not willing to work a Saturday or Sunday. His 9 to 5 is, 9 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then he says, I have no other time to do anything else. I'm so busy. I'm like, busy with what? I don't know. I'm busy. I don't have any other time. I'm like,
how many people are in your position, making the money, the wealth, the family, the portfolio, the hundreds of thousands of students in your community that are going to have somebody in their house on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m.?
Nobody.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, and so like 2 extra, that's a great title for a book, first off. 2 extra steps. So as it pertains to...
It'll be out in June, 3 to 4 weeks before the conference, actually.
Love that. By the way, guys, there's like 3 conferences every year that I'm like, I want to speak at. So in 2023, I turned down like maybe 50 stages, and I still spoke on 110. This year, I turned down almost everything, and I did a lot less traveling and did a lot more in-person stuff with my community. But going into 2025, I said, I got to speak at Bill Face event. Of all the events I got to speak at, that is one that I had so much fun.
We were very appreciative.
And I'm like, I wish I stayed actually longer. I was only in for the day, left that night, and I'm like, I wish I stayed for the entire event.
And you're gonna have more than 90 minutes.
Oh yeah, I went long. I had so much fun. Your audience is so freaking awesome. They're so great. Anyway, so my point to this is that event was amazing. There's a couple of other events that are amazing, but you know how to put a show on. You know how to bring people together, and you know how to get people to connect with each other. And I'm looking at this 2 extra steps. It's got to be something that conveys across your entire lifestyle. It's like the way you treat your people, the way you build your businesses, the way you run your super properties and your super portfolio, the way that you run your events, all of those types of things. But as it pertains to Airbnb specifically, how does 2 extra steps, like what does that mean?
2 extra steps means I do the stuff that my competitors in the marketplace don't do.
What's a good example?
Number 1, I see every property that I purchase in person.
Okay.
At least twice before I close on it. So 1, to identify it, and 2, then I'm usually there the week after to meet, and you're an ex-construction guy, right? To meet the inspector, have my contractor there, do the extra inspections. Like Jerry got to see my house in Montana, but the new one I bought, it has a pond, it had a creek. There was two dwellings on it, 5.5 acres, just verify zoning, especially in a place rural like Montana. All these things that you have to go through, roof, hot tubs, all that stuff. Most people just mail it in and rely on the home inspection, and they buy sight unseen.
Yeah, and also I would imagine on number 1 example, you're probably driving around and looking at the restaurants and the things and the activities to do, and you're thinking about the experience outside of the home as well, and going, okay, because this is a house that's near Whitefish, right?
Yeah, it's about 5 minutes. It's right in between Whitefish and Kalispell. You come in from your RV park, turn left to head to Kalispell, and it's 3 minutes down on the right.
Okay, awesome.
So I have a spreadsheet, right? And it's basically my comp analysis, not like using AirDNA and the tools that are out there, not the data sets, but I go through, and number 1, the first thing I'm doing when I look at a property is I'm rating it. Location, views, proximity, amenities, outside, what I can do, design, just the overall aspect. There's like 9 things on my checklist. And the most important one that makes or breaks it, and Chris has been with me a million times, my wife has been with me a million times when I've done this, is I have to visualize what's the hero image on my Airbnb listing.
Hero image, guys, write that down.
What's the hero image? If I run a Facebook ad, what's that first ad or first image in the carousel, or what's the video going to be?
It's not always the same room, I imagine.
It's like, never a room. It's always outside.
It's always outside.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was fortunate enough to come by and see your place, when you had camp there, and, your house is amazing. The garage is amazing, but I'm going to put the focal point on the exterior activity, because nobody's going to Montana to stay in your freaking house. Don't care how nice it is, right? We want to be outside. You come here during the winter, you want to be hiking, Pinnacle Peak. You want to be playing golf, that type of stuff. So for me, it's always focusing on the outside first, then the inside. And the number 1 thing is marketability. I see so many properties, Zillow, wherever, and, could be off market, doesn't matter. But if I don't see the marketability in that first 90 seconds, or I know how I'm going to leverage my marketing, then I'm not in. Because then I don't have something unique. Every single property, if I went through, and I only own 13, but they are properties that outproduce what we call super property, and that's not the biggest, most badass property.
Bro, I think less is more, honestly.
100%. Right? Everybody else is, I got 200 doors, 250 doors. I mean, I'm going to generate about 2.6 million gross and do about 1.3 net just off my own 13 properties.
Wow.
So my new Montana property, I'll probably do 300, somewhere between 350 to 400,000. I've got 2 in the Outer Banks that I'm into, 2 beachfront properties. We did $852,000 in the first 9 months this year
That's
combined.
bonkers.
We'll do over $1 million next year.
That's bonkers.
So it's finding the right properties that have that marketability. I can't do that without running Facebook ads, without doing listing optimization, direct booking, all that stuff. So it's completely different approach, and you have to take those 2 extra steps because you can't set it and forget it.
Do you think that the reason why you have to do these 2 extra steps is because the lobbyists and hotel, like my outside perspective, because I'm not an Airbnb expert at all. I'm actually one of those idiots that did exactly what you said, which was like just buy properties, throw some random Amazon design.
I did too. It was easy back then.
You had to learn to get to where you're at.
Right.
But I screwed up all of those things. But what I've noticed is these hotels over the last 10 years have amplified everything.
100%.
And they have made their experiences competitive to Airbnb. And so it sounds like it's forcing the Airbnb model to go above and beyond and become super properties.
It depends where you're at. So
Okay.
I live south of Nashville. Fortunately, I was in the ground transportation space prior to doing this. Built a $10 million limousine and bus company.
Nice.
And in 11, 12, 13, before I exited, I was at city council meetings every week. I'm battling Uber. Travis Kalanick, the founder of Uber, came in and took over the entire world by operating illegally. But he got public sentiment on his side, and then we couldn't lobby against him,
I love
right?
it.
And it was I hated it then, but it was a
Of
tremendous
course.
strategy.
You got to respect the guy.
So what happened is, in Nashville, I live in the buckle of the Bible Belt, and it's a very red state, not to get into politics, but it's probably the bluest city politically in the entire country, bluer than San Francisco. So there's this whole issue with state regulation, local regulation. And as I was at these city council meetings, I started seeing, I was not into Airbnb yet. I started seeing these B&B bills that were coming up. And it was it was the #1 city in the country in the world from 13 to 18, according to AirDNA and Airbnb for short-term rentals.
Wow.
I never invested. I had long-terms, condos, that type of stuff. But because of the volatility, so I think there is 100% what you're saying in metropolitan areas, suburban areas. When you're at places like I'm at in Whitefish, Montana, in Banner Elk, North Carolina, which most people haven't heard of, right? I'm in these secondary markets. Why did I go to Whitefish? Because I didn't want to go to Big Sky, right? So I can buy cheaper in Whitefish, get bigger, get better, all that type of stuff. But I do not go to Scottsdale. Look what happened with Scottsdale with the Airbnb a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Your maximum 6 guests when you have a 7-bedroom, $3 million place in, Old Town or whatever it is.
Or these guys that are like in Paradise Valley that buy these massive 20,000 square foot homes that were crushing it, and they had these big parties and bachelor things and people would book these houses for weddings and all sorts of things. Now those things are getting hurt.
100%. So I think the biggest risk to our business and this side of real estate is regulation.
Yeah.
I think the second biggest risk is lack of consistency. I mean, if you stay at short-term rentals, you stay at Airbnbs. I mean,
You're saying lack of consistency across
from a guest stay standpoint.
Got it. Okay. So I go to one Airbnb here, and then I go to somebody else's Airbnb, and it's like dramatic different
100%.
experience. Okay, got it.
I mean, so dude, you travel way more than I do, and I think I'm ridiculous, but you're out of control. I mean, you got to be a hotel guy, right?
Yeah, I'm a hotel guy.
So are you a Marriott guy, a Hilton guy?
I'm a Marriott guy, yeah.
I am too. And, we have a consistency. Even if you go from, a Marriott Suites to a JW or whatever it is, it's still uber consistent. And when you get off stage or get off that American flight, to Boston or whatever it is, what to expect when you walk in that room. You don't get that in short-term rentals anywhere.
This is really interesting because this is exactly why I don't love going to and staying at Airbnbs unless I'm going for like a week and I've got a bunch of people with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of an experience type of thing, is because of that exact thing. It's like,
I've spent like Deer Valley as an example. I've got, what do we have, Chris? 2 $13 million properties there, like side by side for a mastermind meeting a year and a half ago. And it was just horrendous. I got the 2 biggest properties. Like, what do we have? 60 people in 2 houses in Orlando, the big theme park, bowling alleys, all that type of stuff. Half the shit doesn't work. There's not enough plates.
That's exactly
There's not
my
enough
experience.
toilet paper. It's just inconsistent.
The carpet is shredded. It's this, that, and the other. They try and cover things up, whatever. It's just kind of hodgepodge together. And so for the most part, I go, no, there's no way you're getting me to stay.
The feeling.
Cleaning is
100%.
the most inconsistent thing too. It's like one time I'll go to an Airbnb, they kill it. The other time I go to an Airbnb, I'm like, your cleaners are killing your property because they're just cleaning the main areas They're not getting down and dirty and finding the areas, the random places that the guests are going. You know, it's like the last 5 guests didn't go over into this little area in the backyard
100%.
and have a dinner. One guest does, you forget to go and clean that thing. You show up and there's somebody's entire dinner. I went to somebody's Airbnb in Augusta, Georgia, went to the Masters. You know, it's a nice house, $700 a night. I go out to the barbecue and it's like 3 nights ago they had a barbecue that nobody cleaned up.
Correct.
That kind of stuff. And wow, it's really good.
So think about your, how many days were you on the road this year? 200, 300?
I know this year I was so less, I said no to almost everything.
Well, because you had a baby right before the conference too.
Yeah, we had a baby Phil. So he's almost a year old. So right at that point I said, okay, my last boy, I'm going to focus on being home. So this year
100 days?
No, honestly. Yeah, probably 100. Yeah.
So
sadly,
did you have any of those bad experiences when you walked into a Marriott?
No, once.
Never. Do you have that experience, that feeling when you walk into your home, when you get off the road? Never. Regulation and that lack of consistency is the threat to our industry, in my opinion.
Interesting. So it's in a lot of ways, like if you go the two steps extra methodology, you can stand out like all these other people that are just kind of slowly going by the wayside.
There's a lot of psychology to it and a lot of experience, like with your cleaning crew. Mm-hmm. So and I've had bad cleaning crews just like I've had good cleaning crews, but most of mine, I've been with them for quite a while. I go in and if it's going to be $300 to clean, and I'll just start with my girl in Gulf Shores, had her for 4 years since the beginning of COVID, and $300 to clean house. Okay, I'm going to pay you $350.
Yeah.
Well, why are you going to pay me $350? One, because I don't want you trading dollars for hours. And I know you're not going to be the one cleaning, but I need you to teach your crew about this as well. Number two, the only thing I ask is that in the first 30 minutes, they have to do quality control first. So I have time to recover if something's broken, to order it, get Amazon delivery or whatever it is.
Interesting.
Before 4 o'clock.
Like kind of do an inventory over, like, are all the pots and pans still here? Is this happen? Is there a broken glass? Is there this, that, and the other? Like
TVs, beds, whatever. Yeah. So we have I won't go that granular, but it's a great example and a story to tell. But then I compensate the cleaners every 5, because we get ratings on Airbnb by communication, quality and cleaning. Every time they get a 5-star review on cleaning, not the owner, but the cleaners get an extra $25.
Yes. Okay.
So
cool.
My cleaning crew is typically 2 to 4 people, depending on the size. And don't get me wrong, I've got large properties that sleep 38, 40 people, but I also have a 1-bedroom condo I just bought in Whitefish up on the mountain for skiing too.
Wow.
So I do it all. And that same methodology applies to all of my services. I pay them more, and I actually become friends with them, teach them, educate them, and help them use my skills in my genius zone to help them build their business. Michelle, when we started, I think had 4 like 1 or 2 bedroom condos in like Orange Beach that she did. And now she's got like 23, 24 super properties. And a lot of them are from my community because she's implemented a lot of my processes, but I've taught her how to run a business as opposed to just be transactional.
Yeah, I really do think that a lot of people are just going out and buying just about any property, and they're doing Amazon design, Amazon thing. There's clicking, like even me, my property, I have a traveling asset manager. Her name is Heidi. She's like, how do you want to design this? I was like, I don't know. Is there like a check sheet of like, just go on like Pinterest and go, what are the things I need in Airbnb, and click on Amazon, have it all shipped there. There's very little intentionality behind it. It's just like, well, people need a place to stay.
Right.
And we were inconsistent across the board, which is why we had to get rid of a lot of Airbnbs, is I wasn't following that process that you're talking about.
So like my wife and I built out an entire store just on the stuff that we use to try to help our community, curb that to where they can go into our store and, oh, this is what Bria puts into the bedrooms. And so it's the small things. And once again, it's those 2 extra steps, right?
2 extra steps.
So like when you walk into one of mine and you go to the refrigerator and you have what, 4 kids?
4 kids.
4 kids. You walk in, you see the refrigerator, and it's what I call the diamond of Fiji water. There's 10 bottles of Fiji in a diamond, not just slammed in there. It looks nice on the top. And then the other thing is one of my mastermind members actually turned me on to this, and we have a cereal bar in every single house. It's very simple. The little like corn pops and Rice Krispie cups that are plastic.
Honestly,
we have 10 of those sitting on the counter, and
so
it's not for breakfast. It's for your kids
to snack
when they get there, 100%.
Bro, that's actually genius. I don't know why other people aren't doing that, because those things aren't going to go bad. They're not going to go stale really over any,
And they're like 97 cents. You
but
buy a box of 50,
cool.
100. You just stack them like
the only place you get that kind of service is like you go to like a Trump hotel, or you go to like JW, or you go to like, we were just in the Plaza Hotel in Manhattan, and it's like you walk in and there's a series of snacks already ready for your kids. That is smart.
But a lot of people think, well, Bill, you have these super properties. I can't do that in my 2-bedroom condo. Well, You're talking about the Plaza and the JW. You know, we're
Right.
talking $1,000, $1,500 a night. Well, those of you that have $100 or $200 a night properties, if the DoubleTree can do cookies,
Yeah, that's true.
we can do cookies, right? We can do something, pare it down, something simple, but something that's attractive. Just put in 3 of those tubs of, you know, it's $3.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Genius.
inexpensive things that we can do to level up the experience. There's a hotel in Nashville called the Hermitage Hotel.
Mhm.
It's the only 5-star, 5-diamond hotel in the state of Tennessee. And it was a client of mine when I was in the ground transportation space. And Dee Patel.
That's not where you do your event, right?
No.
You do
This is
yours
like
at the
old
Gaylord,
historic.
right?
They only have like 100 rooms there.
Okay, got it.
You were at the Omni when
Yeah.
we were at the event. And Dee Patel, the manager, taught me about +1s. And so I had to have all my chauffeurs trained with her specifically because they had all, 5-star, 5-diamond. They're doing it their way. And a +1 is when her staff was required to make a guest and a fellow employee happy, surprise them with something that makes them happy, makes them smile, right? It could be small, it could be big. So that's where Bria and I have gone in, and we've done a lot of +1s, like those little cereal bars, like
So
a
good.
huge thing. This is, and I'm probably going to get branded for this because I talk about tampons all the time.
Mm.
So every one of our bathrooms has tampons in it and pads. And we don't market it. It's just like as a sales point, but they're all stocked. We have toothbrushes, little flossers, all that type of stuff that you don't get everywhere.
What's interesting about that is even if people don't use that, but they see it.
They understand the attention to detail.
Attention to detail, which then here's the opposite side. The opposite side is, let's say I walk into a house and I see just an outlet, just a regular white plastic outlet that has like a crack in it because somebody screwed the thing too tight.
Mhm.
And there's a little hairline crack. I will notice that stuff. I know you will too. And I walk in and go, man, if they have that going on, what other things do they have going on? And I start
100%.
looking for the bad things.
Yep.
Versus if you've got the tampon, the pads, all the other things, it's like, dude, not only am I not looking for the bad things, I'm like, what other cool things did they do here? And the whole entire, experience is elevated just from the basic things I won't even use.
1,000%. And I think the other component, and this is really the 2 extra steps, it starts way before the guest arrives. So when you book, and this is where people that don't understand sales and marketing they've just never been experienced with it if they're a W-2, right? When you book on Airbnb, if I have a strict cancellation policy, you have 24 hours, 2 days to cancel risk-free. So you're not my client. You are a sales qualified lead. That's it. For all of you guys that have been trained in sales. So the first thing that I do,
Even
Pace,
if they've paid
you
during
paid
their
Airbnb
cancellation policy or period, they're still a lead in your
48 hours,
Yeah.
you can get 100% refund. I've
Yeah.
made no money. You haven't pulled your credit card out. I haven't swiped it. You've given it to Airbnb. So since you can cancel, like one of the first 2 extra steps things I do, if I get a booking right now, when we're done with this, the first thing I'm going to do is say, hey, Pace, can you give me 2 minutes when we're done before we start chatting? I'm going to grab my phone. I'm going to send them a welcome video. Hey, I'm Bill. Thanks for booking, Oak Lodge and Banner Elk. I'm excited to host you. If you need anything, boom, boom, boom. Because it gets them to stop scrolling.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Chris and I were at Abruzzo's, or no, where we Tupelo Grill in Whitefish. I'm sure you've eaten there, right?
Oh yeah.
And one night after a mastermind meeting, we're flying home the next day. I get a booking, literally sitting at the table. I shoot the video and send it to them.
So smart. I mean, you think about, because I've done that too. I book something that I see and I go, I need to get this reserved as fast as possible, and let me
But
see
you're
if I
still
can
looking.
find something better.
100%.
It's not often, but I've done that.
Especially when you're booking stuff like this,
Yeah.
right? Like if you're going to host an event someplace and you're
Oh,
bringing
yeah.
your community, and I got my dates, let me secure this, but if I can find something better,
Yes.
then we'll move on.
But you send a video, they're done.
99% of the time.
Yeah.
So I'm nurturing them. So
Yeah.
I think for me, if there's things that your community can learn from you and my community can learn from me and vice versa, it's great about Sub2 this. It's great about
Yeah.
Airbnb, about making money. But the most important thing is what you're doing with your community, the relationships that you
Yeah.
build,
Yeah.
the trust that you earn from them because of what you do. I mean, I'm the 2 extra step guy. You're like the 4 extra step guy. I'm learning from you.
I don't know about that. I mean, it's interesting now. I'm thinking about how I've been treated in my Airbnb stays. I've never gotten a video up front, but it would mean something to me. Even if I didn't watch it, I just would be like, oh, that's freaking cool. These people are like on it. I will book for other people, right? So like I had an event, community camp, you came and hung
Mhm.
out. I brought in a bunch of my team. I think I rented out like 9 or so Airbnbs around my property so people could just have easy access. And I'm going through and I was doing that the whole time. I was like, okay, I think this is good for these people. This is good for these people. Let me start booking. And I had like temporary deposits on all these houses, but I spent another like 3 or 4 hours.
Oh no, that house is going to be better
That's
for Brittany and the
better,
team
blah,
over
blah, blah.
there.
But if I had gotten a video, that's amazing. That's an extra step. One that I just got yesterday, somebody just sent me a message and goes, "Hey, I imagine you're planning your trip to the Masters. Would you like to come back and stay at the property again? We really enjoyed having you." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I don't know if that's a CRM inside of Airbnb or if she's manually doing that, but that's a big deal. She literally sends me a message and I wasn't even thinking about going to the Masters.
Right.
Now I'm like, oh, my Airbnb host is my friend. She's thinking about it's crazy how easy
Did
that
she
is.
send that via Airbnb or did she send you
Airbnb.
like an email?
Airbnb.
So it's interesting. There's a software called Market My STR, and just full disclosure, I'm 30% owner in it.
Okay.
But we funnelize. So I built this whole 260-day funnel, right? To where voice drops, text messages,
Smart.
emails, all that stuff. So everybody in my side of the business, in Airbnb, wants to do direct bookings and own the customer. But most of them don't do anything to do that, which is what your host just did.
That lady owns
right?
me. I will never, now when I go to the Masters, I'm never staying anywhere else.
100%. So I've
She
got
just
like
got my
this
loyalty.
260-day funnel, that goes out with all those things, text message, voice drops, all that type of stuff. I do 41% direct bookings. Most people are doing less than 5%.
It's so interesting that those 2 extra steps, I think guys like you and I just do that by default. We wait. I don't know. Where'd that come from you? Is your parents taught you work ethic? Like, where'd that come from?
My mom did. I mean, I didn't have a father. She was a teacher. And then I saw her when I was like 15, 16 buy her first business, which was a preschool.
Yes.
And we have some similar stories like that. We were sitting at the dining table and she's doing ledgers. And then I started my first business, just selling t-shirts from a guy in LA. I was playing in a junior a golf tournament.
Did you grow up in LA?
I grew up in Bakersfield, California.
Wow. Oil town.
Yep. 100%.
Wow. Your mom was a school teacher in Bakersfield.
Yep.
Where's she now?
She's passed away. She passed away in 2008. My whole family was in education. I think that's why I migrated to this. Like when I quit playing professional golf, the first thing I did was become the college golf coach at Cal State Bakersfield, making $5,000 a year to be a full-time golf coach.
Oh my gosh. What?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I just had,
It was the lifestyle?
No, I just have this love for helping people.
Yeah.
And then I had to learn I couldn't make any money doing that. And then I became a club professional, that you see, and I was making like $24,000 a year.
Is that all my club pro makes is 20?
What club are you at?
I'm at Mesa Country Club, just down the road.
Your head do you have a director of golf or just a head?
Yeah, we have a director of golf.
Director of golf is probably there. I'm just going to guess making 100 to 150. Your head pro is probably making 75 to 100.
Okay, cool.
I mean, you got to go to Whisper Rock or Maribel to make, 200, 250,000. There's just no money in that business. All those guys are doing it for the love of the game.
Yeah, Scott, our head pro, good guy. He's been there for 12 years, 14 I've been there. And I imagine he's probably making 100 grand. And maybe he's probably tenured a little bit higher than that, but okay, interesting. But it's like being outside, playing golf, hanging out with the member. He plays golf with the members all day long.
Yeah, I mean, that's a cool job. You're just not going to get wealthy doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing it for the love of the game. There's no question.
He was smart. He's kind of leveraged into some other deals that these members are, they got him, they're like become buddies with him and he's leveraged into some other deals.
That access
is a big deal.
100%.
If you know how to leverage it. If you go the 2 extra steps,
100%.
You could just be a golf pro, or you could be a golf pro being a ninja getting into other people's deals. So Bakersfield, you end up becoming a coach, a full-time golf coach. When did you start getting in love with Airbnbs?
Oh, that wasn't till 2015.
Okay. I mean, that's a long time ago still. It's 9 years ago, 10 years ago.
So like my first real estate deal was a duplex in Bakersfield, California. I made like 220 grand playing professional golf. So I was a third-ranked player in the world coming out of high school. Full ride to UCLA. Wasn't smart enough. I was supposed to go to Stanford with Casey Martin, Jerry Chang, and Tiger Woods. That was our whole, and Nota Begay. We were all going to Stanford. And I couldn't score high enough on the SAT on the math side.
Wow.
So like when you're drawing all the shit with all the numbers and everything, I need to get out my phone and get the calculator. But I dropped out. I hated UCLA. So I dropped out after 3 months and turned professional at 18. But I made just over a couple $100 grand. And I was a party guy at that point in my life. And I was going to Vegas and gambling and drinking and girls and all that stuff. And thank God my CPA, who I'd known since I was 12 and my best man at my wedding, said, hey, let's don't go blow that money playing blackjack and at strip clubs and stuff. And I bought my first duplex for like $170,000.
Nice.
Owned it for 19 years. Sold it for just under $1 million.
Wow.
19 years later. And that was kind of my first foray into real estate. And I built commercial building. I built a 54,000 square foot commercial gold lead certified building in Nashville for my limousine company. But I got into Airbnbs because an electrician I played golf with at my country club had condos and he just switched them from long-term to short-term. And, you know, I was bitching and complaining about being at city council and Uber this and Uber that. And I said, you're doing Airbnb. I see all these bills, all this regulation coming. And he's like, yeah, it's kind of tough here, but you know, instead of getting $2,400 a month, I'm making $8,000. And this is pre-COVID. So that's when my business partner in my glow golf business, I owned 178 glow in the dark miniature golf courses around the country in shopping malls with my partner, Reg Booth, who was a Wichita and a Scottsdale guy. And he bought our first one, which was he was also the second franchisee in the Pizza Hut. So for his staff and then our glow golf staff in Estes Park, Colorado. And that was kind of the first foray. Then we got a condo together in Destin. And then mine and my wife's first real purchase on our own was in 2018. We bought our first beach house.
What city?
Gulf Shore, Fort Morgan, Alabama, just outside of Gulf Shores. We were sitting in 30A with a groomsman that was in my wedding. I met him playing in South America and professional golf. And his family owned over 400 properties in the Destin 30A area.
Wow.
And my wife said, you know what? We've got like 125 grand. Wee, his name's William Wilson. Called him Wee. They called me Six Pack, not because I had abs at that time of my life. And my wife said, I just have three things. I want to see the water. I want to smell it. And I want to be able to hear the waves.
Yeah.
And William looks at me just dead in the eye and says, you need to go west about 4 hours because you can't afford. And this was well before COVID. We're talking early 2018. We flew, he said, go to Gulf Shores. It's the redneck Riviera, but you can afford there. You can't afford here. About 2 weeks later, we flew down there and saw 10 properties in one day. And the very first one, which was the most unique one out of all of them that we found, we ended up buying. And that was kind of the start of the Airbnb.
Do you guys still have that
journey.
one?
No, we sold that. 2020, we sold that. And that was kind of the impetus for us to create cash. I mean, when I started short-term rentals, I probably had a net worth of about maybe 1.7, 1.8 million, just under 50 right now. And we ended up making about 3.3 million flipping in 2021 there as well, which I'd never flipped before.
It's such a great period to flip.
100%. I mean,
that was great.
Those markets were appreciating like 3 to 4% a week at that time.
So here in Phoenix, I've been flipping for a long time. And before I was flipping, I was working for like Open Door, OfferPad, Zillow. I was flipping their houses for them. So I ran a big construction company, 180 employees. And in 2020 to 2022, you could buy a house at its existing ARV, like 100% of ARV, and know I was going to make money.
Right.
Which is crazy. Because, you know, in 2018, I got to buy a deal at 60 cents on the dollar in order for me to make money. I would buy a house at $500,000 knowing that by the time I was done with the renovation, I could sell it for $750. It was a beautiful time to flip.
Right.
You timed that really, really
and
well.
I'd never done it before. And it's kind of interesting because when Jerry spoke at B&B camp before you did, and he's like, what do you want me to talk about? When we went and did the walkthrough for his house to help him kind of get it set up and at Blaine Lake to try to Airbnb, he mentioned the three terms of fast money, medium money, and slow money. And I'd never heard that before.
Yeah.
And
I call it today money, tomorrow money, forever money.
And I think that, and I started looking back and I took a lot of what he said and I'm like, I know this and I've done this. I've just never thought of correlating it that way. And I look like a lot of people in my mastermind, in my inner circle and all that type of stuff, they're all in the slow lane. So now I'm trying to help them move more into the medium lane because you have revenue streams in the fast lane, the medium, and I have revenue streams there. But I never really thought about that, like from the educational standpoint, because a lot of people just get into long-term, you know, they get into short-term, whatever it is, and it's all slow.
It is interesting though. Personality types are really interesting. You have a 2 extra step personality. I have a 2 extra step personality for sure. But there are some people that come to me and they learn from me. Same thing with you. I'm sure there's people that come and learn from you that are like, I just want to have like 3 properties and be done.
100%.
And that's cool. Like, so there's nothing wrong with that.
We have a couple,
Yeah.
Casey and Trevor from Idaho, that they just joined the Gator program after B&B camp. They're in my program, my inner circle, and they're in your Gator program. And they want something similar. They're building an A-frame right now, and it's taking them forever, like a year and a half. I'm like, we got to get that shit done before April so you can make some money during the season. And so they want a Gator, right? Which I love because I know a little bit about the Gator method, and they're trying to go on multiple paths. And they're young and they're aggressive and they're smart, but I do think it has to do with, you know, the personality. But I think the one thing I tell somebody when they tell me that, okay, that's great. I get the kind of pat the little kid on the head and say, I know where you're at right now, but once you start making more money,
That's it.
You're going to have to continue to reinvest and take
You'll get sick
the
of
tax
it.
advantages.
You'll also get sick of it where you go, okay, well, I accomplished, it's like today, you've accomplished today what you never thought you could accomplish 10 years ago.
100%.
And you have bigger goals today than you had 5 years ago, and so on. And same thing with me. It's like, the more I realize what I can do, the more I realize I'm going to push my goals to another level. So when people say, I just want to have 5 properties and be done, I'm like, pat them on the head. Great. How can I help you get there? They get there and they're like, dude, how do I get to 25? I'm like, I knew you'd be back. I knew you'd be back. It's addicting. The growth, the progress, expanding yourself and seeing what life is all about is very, very much addicting.
It's like when you're fat. I mean, I was 308 pounds a year and a half ago. And when I tried to get healthy again, and I used to run like 9-minute miles, 5 miles every day in 2018, and I got COVID fat. And I couldn't walk a mile without getting shin splints and having to stop and run my shins. At the end of, not the end, but when I finally got down and busted down below 250, then I could run 5 miles again. If I would have stopped at that 1 mile, I'd still be 300 pounds.
Yeah.
You just got to continue to push and reset your goals, push and reset your goals.
What are some other 2 extra steps that people should be doing in their Airbnb? You got going to the property, getting that, what'd you call it? The golden shot?
The hero shots,
The
like that
hero
first
shot.
image in your listing, right?
So you work on that, your marketing, sales and marketing, your processes, all of those types of things.
Here's the most important one.
I like what you're doing with the cleaners. That's money. Is there anything else that's like you look at other Airbnb hosts and you're like, guys, it's not that freaking hard. Why aren't you doing X?
The most important one is just doing it every day. So just like I've got to run, jog, sauna, lift weights, whatever to stay, at 235, or I'm going to bloom back up, especially I keep eating, Mastros when I come here.
Yeah.
People get in a rush, like especially we just kind of closed out in our world what we call cost egg season, right? So if they have to qualify for material participation, they got to close by at least the first week of December to get their 100 hours in to get the tax benefits. But people are making bad decisions because they're rushing to try to get the 1-year benefit from a tax purposes. And then they buy a dog that's breaking even and they got $100,000 or $200,000 tied into it. And they've got a bad investment for the next 5 years.
But at least then they're like, well, at least I saved the taxes on this year and they've got a dog.
But then
your
cash is tied up for the next 3, because that recapture takes, 5 years to get 90% of it back. So for me, my first property I bought in Montana is a prime example. Out by, in Olney, it's about 15 minutes towards the Canadian border out 93. And it's the best property I have. I paid under $1 million for it. But it took me 2 years, 6 months, 2 years, 7 months, and 6 days until I found the property.
People don't want to wait.
They don't have the patience and they don't want to look every single day.
Well, it's interesting to me, Bill, because I look at people, I don't have a college degree. I did go to college.
I don't either.
And there was an interesting thing that happened to me. So I'm working night shift at a manufacturing company, and then I'm going to school in the daytime, Utah State. And one night shift, knock on the door, 1 o'clock in the morning, rain's pouring. I look through the door. I'm like, we're locking up the building to run this manufacturing company at nighttime. I'm like, what the hell? Why is somebody knocking on the door at 1 o'clock in the morning? This is 20 years ago. And I open up the door. I'm like, can I help you? And he takes the hood off of his head, and it's my college professor. I'm like, what are you doing here? He goes, I'm just looking for a job. I'm like, well, you're a college professor. Why do you need a job here? He's like, well, I need extra money. And then he comes in, I invite him in, we're sitting down. He says, dude, you should get out of college. It's a sham. It's a scam. I'm a business major. I'm this, that, and the other. And I barely make enough money to pay my bills, blah, 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 blah. And I just got disillusioned from college. And also, I don't think I was built for college. I don't think you were built for college. I think we were built to go out and take action. But my point is, I watch people that will go into the college system. They'll go get a bachelor's. They'll get a master's maybe, or they'll go get their doctorate. And they'll go into being a doctor for 12 years. Then they have a freaking, internship as a doctor. What do they call that?
Residency.
You got a residency for 4 years to specialize in whatever you're doing. So you're 16 years into making $500,000 a year. 16 years. And not only that, but now you've got $1 million in debt and you've got all these things you've racked up and you've put your life on pause for 16 years. People are willing to do that all day long. It blows my freaking mind, but they're not willing to put 2 years and six months into working to get one asset that will make them just as much money as they would have if they went to 16 years of medical school.
I'm living that right now, my friend. My oldest daughter's a freshman and she's a pre-med major.
Yeah. And you're like, there's better ways to do this, sweetheart.
$65,000 a year for undergrad, and we're probably total to get through before she'll get out and start her residency, probably making $50,000 to $60,000 a year for the first 4 to 5 years. She'll
Right.
have, I mean, I'm paying for all the undergrad, but she's still going to rack up $300,000, $400,000 in for
Of
med
course.
school.
I mean, that whole duration is going to take her, what, 12 years? 11 to 14 years?
12 to 14 years. I offered her a property.
To make as much money as probably 1 or 2 properties.
I offered her a property, $100,000 a year salary. She makes 40 now, and $250,000 in cash to bypass college.
She says no.
I get it. She wants to become
a personality thing. I think.
100%.
Yeah.
I don't know. And, you know, she just turned 19 2 days ago. She'll mature and manifest, and she's amazing and way smarter than me. But I'm hoping that she kind of goes down, that has photography bug, that she goes down the creative side.
Way better.
As opposed to, I mean, I have so many of my students, Pace, are in the medical field. They're doctors or anesthesiologists.
Yeah, they got extra cash. They don't know what to do with it. They actually surprisingly are not happy.
And they
with their
hate
lives.
being in that space today. You know, the love of why they got into it has been sucked dry over that time period.
Yeah, it's become a bureaucracy and insurance companies, all the things and whatever. I have a lot of accredited investors in my fund that are all doctors. We'll go play golf together. You have no idea how much I wish I was you.
And a lot of them are having to do, you know, to make a living now.
Yes.
At $50 a call, or writing a script for Viagra or whatever that is.
And they thought, just like you and I, when we were growing up, we thought doctor was the precipice. It was the zenith of what you could ever reach. It was like the highest level you could reach in our societal hierarchy. Now I look at it, I'm like, you couldn't pay me enough to be a doctor. You couldn't pay me enough to have that structure. Being able to be creative and learn a new skill, like putting 2 years and 6 months into that. Think about all the skills you learned of persistence, consistency, saying no 1,000 times, like, nope, 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 nope. Like that really is part of the skill that you've acquired, and what you teach your people is how to say no, because we don't want dogs. We want super properties.
They have to be, because if they're not, you can't stack them. Right. And that's what I look at, is what I call property stacking. And it's really pretty simple. There's one, and that's where the commitment comes, right? So I have this, it's called the 550-250 plan. 5 properties in 5 years will net you $250,000 a year.
I like that.
But you've got to understand repositioning. You've got to understand the 4 principles of cash flow, you know, equity. Almost nobody in my world is looking at a run rate of equity in a market and a price point before they purchase. And I'm sure when you come and you buy this place, you're looking at all of that here.
Yeah.
We talked about what your house costs compared to being in Scottsdale or Fountain Hills, or whatever that is. It's not just about the community. There's a financial component to that. And most of these people...
I'm interested in what you're talking about with the equity side. Because like for me on the single family and the multifamily side, I'm currently repositioning 12 single family properties right now that are just regular. One's an Airbnb. The other 11 are just regular rentals.
So I do a return on equity audit on my...
That's what I just did.
On my properties.
I've got $2 million tied up in these houses. We need to redeploy this. If I had $2 million tied up anywhere else but these things, it would be giving me more return.
So I think a lot of people get tunnel vision, and I'm just going to do short-term rentals. I'm just going to do, you know, creative financing. I'm just going to do, you know, midterm, whatever it is. I teach my students, and my mom taught me this when she had no money, is, hey, Bill, if you've got $10, make sure you're spending that in the right place every single time. So if I'm going to put $100,000 into crypto, stock market, land, short-term rental, become a private money lender, whatever it is, I want to make sure that's the best place that I can put my money. And the only way that I can really identify that is to practice that every single day. Yeah. Look, you're a golfer. I played professional golf. I haven't played golf in 8 years. And the reason I haven't played golf in 8 years is, one, I wanted to commit to my girls. I didn't want to spend 5 hours on a Saturday and all that type, because they had no interest in it. If they would have had an interest, I'd still play. But the other component to that is, I probably couldn't break 85 if I went out there today, because
I got a chance to beat.
I haven't swung a club in 8 years.
Dang.
So, but you know, if you want to be good, like, what's your handicap?
I'm a 12.
A 12. So you have to have some level of commitment to practice, and if you don't, you lose your skill quickly. Right? Because it's that whole muscle memory repetition that goes into that. And I look at that same thing that I learned growing up in high school, and when I got better, and then Dr. Bob Rotella playing professional golf, coaching, all those things. I've applied that to all of those businesses. So I do have a very strong work ethic, but I've seen, and you see this, a lot of people make money, and what do? They get complacent.
Oh, dude, we could talk about this for 5 hours. I had guys I was coming up in the industry with that are just chilling now. They're just like, they made enough money. They're like, Pace, why aren't we hanging out? I'm like, because I don't hang out. I grow. I want to find new people, new ways of doing things. And like Jerry's been a friend of mine probably the longest.
I love that dude.
He's so amazing, aligned with personal stuff and, religion, and him and I have a similar background and all of that kind of stuff. But
You're a little bit behind him on the kids, though. You got to keep
dude, I don't know
practicing.
we'll ever catch up. Actually, this was Jerry's house.
Really?
I bought this house from Jerry on seller finance when he moved to Puerto Rico.
That's an awesome story.
It's
for,
a great
for this
story.
and your Montana house, which you bought from his brother, right?
I bought from his brother. Yeah, $1 down payment on that deal. That was a good deal. But my point is, I probably 8 years ago I was running with another pack of wolves that I'm not running with now. Just a bunch of really awesome dudes. But then they hit a couple of milestones. Their financial thermostat turns off. They don't really care anymore. They're complacent. Then I do an audit on my friends. Oh crap, I'm not growing. And the reason I'm not growing is always based on who I'm hanging out with, right?
How did you identify that again?
I
did an audit on your friends.
I did an audit, yeah.
You don't hear that very often.
Yeah, I had a coach, John Boehm. He charged me $500 an hour. He's now the head mindset coach for the Arizona Cardinals, and he would say, "Who's your board of directors?" I'm like, huh? What do you mean?
It's the people in your foursome that you're playing golf with.
That's 100% it. It's those 5 people you're hanging out with the most. It's the most amount of people that an average human can have intimate, like deep conversations with is about 5 people. So who are those 5 people? I'm like, I never thought that I could change those 5 people. I thought they were my high school buddies or my college buddies or whatever. The reality is I'm doing that yearly. It's like, are you treat your wife with respect? Do you have kids? I don't want to hang out with dudes that don't have kids. I just don't, because they don't understand what's important to me, right? Like a guy that is, I hang out with them. I'm just not saying I'm not traveling with them and going and building businesses.
You're not intimate with them.
I'm not super intimate with them. Yeah. So that's a great thing, is just doing the audit on your own board of directors. And, you've got, obviously you're hanging out with your students, you're hanging out with people in your community, of course, but then you're going out and you're collaborating and building businesses. And some of the people in your community, I'm sure, have even come to you and you're like, yeah, dude, you and I are aligned. We can be buddies. We can go build businesses, software together or whatever else. But I know every time I'm failing on my money side of things, it's because of who I'm spending my time with.
100%. Yeah. So I'm kind of the guy, like in my core community, my mastermind, to help the people in there build businesses outside of real estate.
Yeah.
I think, Chris, what have we done now? Like 11, maybe? I think 11 successful businesses, some that are vertical integrations within the real estate space. Others, are just completely outside of it.
Well, yeah, you take these principles you're talking about. Consistency is the thing that we were just talking about a couple minutes ago. And I would say, you also mentioned the old phrase we've all heard, which is, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So it's like playing golf. If you're not playing golf and hitting a bucket of balls every day and going out and taking shots and chipping and doing all these things, or playing against people that are better than you, which is probably the number one hack, play with people that are better than 100%. You and compete with them to some degree. If you take a pause on that 5 years later, there's no way you can even stand a chance against those guys, obviously. And
you'll never get it back.
You'll never get it back. You're not the same person. Your biomechanics are different, all that kind of stuff. My point is, most people would look at that and be frustrated and go, gosh, dang it, life is hard. If I don't use it, I lose it. Gosh, dang it, life is hard. So I might as well not even try. And I look at that principle of life, one of those laws of the universe. If you don't use it, you lose it. I look at that as a gift for people like yourself. And like, if I do the little things every day, I will beat 99.9% of the population, because they just won't. It's not hard. It's simple. I'm sorry. It is hard.
It's hard up here.
It's hard up here. It really, really is hard up there. Is that 2 years and 6 months to go find a treasure property? People aren't willing to do that. They look for a week, maybe not even a week.
And they settle.
They go buy a dog because they're like, I just need to get my hands on a deal. And they go buy a dog. And anybody in here had, do you have dogs? Have you ever had dogs?
100%, yeah.
Okay. I'm in a phase of my life right now where my kids are really young, and our dog actually is an impediment against our lifestyle. There's been other times in my life where my dog is an amplifier to my lifestyle, but we travel so much that having a dog is actually a problem.
Yep.
And so I look at that and I'm like, that's kind of like a bad property. It's like, gosh, dang it. When are you going to get out of my portfolio? And it sounds horrible, but when you talk about it with real estate, there's a lot of people that just jump into bad deals. They just don't say no enough.
They don't have the patience, and you're right. They don't say no. And it's
in 2.5 years, you probably said no to 100 properties in that area.
I flew to Montana 3 or 4 times to see properties in person, from Bozeman to West Yellowstone, the Bitterroot south of Missoula. I wanted to see the entire place and see all of my options. And I almost pulled the trigger on one in Bozeman. It was like a $2.5 million property. It was the first one. and I flew, and my wife never goes
Why'd
with
you
me
turn it down?
because literally it was unregulated. It was in Paradise Valley, if you know where that is, just outside of Bozeman.
Yeah.
It was amazing, but it was unregulated, and Bozeman was going through some changes at that time. There was too much risk.
Too much
So
volatility.
I'm in the Airbnb space, and it's funny because I get all the hater comments on like my Facebook ads and stuff like that of, the people, oh, Airbnb, it's dead, you're a scammer, snake oil salesman. I'm sure you've heard similar stuff in the past.
Yeah.
And I'm like the most conservative guy when it comes to real estate investing. I'm very conservative when it comes to money. And when I'm coaching, I'm more conservative with other people's money. So if I see risk, and that's a big thing for me, is I want to make sure that I can mitigate risk through performance, through underwriting. I do deeper research. Like, you know what's going on in Whitefish right now with Discovery Land Management? Maribel. Have you heard of Discovery Land Management?
No.
You know what Maribel Country Club is out by Whisper Rock and Scottsdale?
No.
They're like the highest end country club developer in the world right now. And they're building a place down in Lakeside.
In Lakeside?
Lakeside, yeah. Drew Brees and the Averils that own the lodge and everything in town, in Whitefish there. They bought on the other side of my river that I'm on, the Stillwater River at Stillwater Lake. Literally, they bought 800 acres, and there's like a NFL compound being built there. So there's these, and there's like 4 other huge developments. There's one going out by you guys, out by Blaine Lake too.
Wow.
There's some huge stuff that the general public doesn't know about, but it's all public information. All they have to do is know where to find it. Go to the economic development divisions, look at city council minutes, that type of stuff. So I'm looking, that's another part of the 2 extra steps. I'm doing that type of research before I move into a market, or I've never bought a $3 million single family home. My primary residence, I live in a 7,000 square foot in the second nicest part of Nashville. Paid $750,000 for it 18 years ago. I put some money into it.
Yeah, I think it's worth something today.
It's worth a couple $1 million. But like I bought that $3 million property I had B&B camp at, and I've never done anything. But a lot of that's because of what's happening and what's moving forward. I know that thing's going to appreciate.
Yeah, you're heading to where the hockey puck is going.
That thing's going to appreciate at least 5 to 7% a year over the next 5 years. I bought a shitty condo in the shittiest building up on the mountain, but it's the closest building to the ski resort. And we made it the nicest in that building. But the key was I knew there were 6 pre-sales on a 16 unit going between me and there. I paid $683 a square foot. Those start at $1342 a square foot, right?
Wow.
So looking cash flow, appreciation, debt pay down, tax benefits. If I can't check all 4 of those boxes, where it used to be in COVID, cash flow. That's the only thing anybody was looking.
Yeah. Wow. I look at Airbnb and I think that it's just evolving, right? Just like anything else. And, a couple of books everybody should read is Who Moved My Cheese? You're always going to have to reinvent yourself. It is a blessing. Don't look at it as a curse. Super properties, I've never really thought of it that way. Airbnb, you're going to get your butt kicked if all you're doing is doing what I did for the last, 5-6 years. Our Airbnbs all dropped 30-40%, it seemed almost like overnight, because they were just run of the mill.
Right.
We weren't doing the 2 extra steps. We were doing what everybody else was doing. And I deserved to lose money on those properties. I deserved that because I was following just, okay, buy a property, throw some stuff in. That's not Airbnb, right? People want that experience. They want that hero shot. They want all of those types of things.
I think the other thing too, for us is people invest into one traffic driver. Right? You go into Atlanta and you go because you're close to Coke, right?
Yeah.
Or the Coca-Cola experience, or you're in Midtown, whatever it is, there's one traffic driver. So like a prime example for us in the short-term rental space is Blue Ridge, Georgia. Incredible during COVID. Horrendous right now. There's a market called Logan, Ohio that has a state park, and it was the #1 ranked market in September of 2021. And it's not even in the top 200 now because they don't have a traffic driver. It's just a state park.
Wow.
That's there, right? So you look at the Whitefish Kalispell area as an example. Fly fishing, actually, Patrick, your fly fishing guy is I'm starting a business with him.
Oh, you are? That's awesome.
His fiance has been my cleaner since I've been up there, and he works for Bree and myself and does all our electrical and everything. And now I'm starting a business with him.
Yeah, I look at Whitefish as like this recreation capital. We did this year, we flew planes, we whitewater raft, we paintballed, we fly fish probably 20 times, boating, skiing, hiking, the best hikes, national park, right? Great shopping, good food.
Glacier's the sleeper best national park in the country, in my opinion.
For sure. I tell everybody that all the time. And so I look at that
and then you didn't even mention the winter. I mean, the mountain, snowmobiling, there's so many things that you can do. The traffic is there.
Yeah.
And people don't look at that. Why are people going to Bozeman versus Whitefish?
Because I think people talk about it more, so people get FOMO. It's kind of like with Bitcoin. It's like everybody's talking about Bitcoin. Oh, I missed out on Bitcoin. I better buy Bitcoin right now. Cool. Do whatever you want to do. But Bozeman was that thing for me that I started hearing about Bozeman so much over the last 4 or 5 years. I was like, I think I've missed the wave.
Because of Yellowstone.
Because of Yellowstone. I think the wave really is Whitefish, and I think the wave is Kalispell, for at least in Montana. And I love that you're going those 2 extra steps where you're going to the county minutes, you're actually getting involved. You're seeing who, because these guys like Drew Brees, these guys are planning stuff 5 years in advance.
100%.
Him and I own an acai bowl company together. We have 24 franchises together, me, him, and 3 other people. And then we also own a company called We Build, where we build out all the franchise of like Cheesecake Factory and, all the restaurants you guys see, TGI Fridays. We do the build outs for the
Ask him why he's spending so much money in Whitefish.
Oh yeah. I haven't talked to him about it too much. We went to the rodeo together in Big Four and we were hanging out next to each other and we didn't really talk much about it, but he's just like, I go, why are you spending so much time here? He's like, I just got a couple of projects.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys are planning 5, 7, 8 years in advance.
So you know what Yellowstone Club is in Big Sky, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're building out by my house out by the river. They won't have the ski resort there. But then, when you're driving up the mountain, I can't remember the name of the subdivision, that's really big, expensive one that's to the left before you get up to the top. That Gogan just got 800 acres on the other side of it. And that's going to be another Yellowstone-esque club that's going up there. So you think about the impact that's going to have, that's going to start in Whitefish. It's going to matriculate to Kalispell.
Yep.
It's going to go down to Lakeside, into Big Fork, that entire area. And 99.9% of investors don't know about it.
I know. I love it. I bring people in and they all want to buy a house in Montana. I'm like, I'm telling you, this is the land of opportunity right here. This valley over the next 30 years will make people hundreds of millions of dollars.
Agreed. The $1 million cabin that I bought, just a 3-2 cabin up on that river that has the best access and views and everything. Just a regular cabin, nothing special about it at all. Find 1,000 of them in Sevierville in the Smokies, right? I paid $955 for it. Had it appraised when I bought this $3 million property, $1.6 million. I've owned it for just under 2 years.
Wow.
We've made some updates and stuff like that
of
to
course,
it, but we haven't put in maybe 120 grand, nothing significant.
Well, actually, my big takeaway today with you is less is more, because other people are like, let's go out and buy 500 properties. Let's go buy 200 properties. Let's get a portfolio of 12. Dude, you don't need that. 5 properties, 5 years, $250,000 a year. That's a great method. Also, what you're doing is you're like, dude, I'm going to go super properties, super lifestyle. I'm not going to worry about these dogs. I don't want dogs in my portfolio. I want treasure properties.
If you have a dog, get rid of it quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Get rid of it because you're going to be.
Because you've had them and I've had them. I think people think we're kind of immune to that stuff. We all make bad investments.
I have one right now. I'm getting rid of it right now. The house on Sonnet. Luckily, it's appreciated significantly, but we just couldn't get that thing to cash flow over 3 years. New tenants, new this. Hey, let's do this. Let's do that. We couldn't get it to cash flow for 3 years. And I'm like, okay, well, it's appreciated. But again, now your return on equity, get rid of that dog. Just get rid of it as fast as possible. My partner even said a couple of months ago, maybe if we do, I'm like, bro, sell it now. Get rid of the dog right now. It's time. Get rid of it. Let's consolidate. And so, no, we're not immune to it either. But I should be to a certain degree and this is what I mean by that, is if I was spending as much methodical time as you did, making sure that my properties were going to be treasure properties, you're either going to spend the 2.5 years up front to buy the treasure property or 2.5 years to get rid of the property that you shouldn't have bought.
That's a good point.
That's basically my big takeaway is. So, all right, your big event, it's coming up, Nashville. You guys will be what month, what dates?
We haven't announced it yet, but I'll announce it on your podcast.
Okay, let's do it.
Chris, give me the exact dates. It's July 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th. July 22nd through the 25th. Pace Morby is going to be the keynote.
I'll be there. Are you going to have Jerry speak this year?
I'm going to have you and Jerry, and if you'll bring Jameel, I'm giving you guys an all-day track.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? That'd be amazing.
An all-day track for the 3 of you.
Guys, if you're heading out there, you want to find more deals, I'll show you guys where we're finding our deals and how we're structuring creative finance deals. It is honestly, out of all the real estate events I go to, it is the best real estate event I've ever been to. Truly, how it's been planned, the buzz, the excitement, even how you have sponsors. Where your sponsors are and how the buzz was. I was like, this is great. Other people put their sponsors off to the side. They don't treat them properly. Your sponsors almost feel like they're part of the event. People are going in there socializing around the sponsors. It was really, really well.
People don't understand. Well, number one, I know you guys can't see him, but Chris, he's the guy that built that event.
Good job, Chris.
I had a vision, and him and I took the vision of going to grants in 2020.
Yep.
And said, I want to do this, but I don't want it to be a pitch fest and all those types of things. And what most people don't understand is, and I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but the attendees aren't the most important. The sponsors are the most important.
I agree.
When you have a $2 million budget to put on an event, the sponsors are where you're going to make your money back. And the better job you can do for your sponsors, the more money you can make, the lower the price you can keep for the attendees. So we will probably launch ticket sales right before Christmas. And our goal is to keep the price point as we're going to go to 5,000 people this year under $500. Like, we'll set up a time, probably 2, 3, 4 weeks.
That's a really great price.
To where if everybody gets in early
for a 3-day event, $500? Are you kidding me?
And they're going to get like a freaking track with you and Jerry. And so we're going to have all these tracks. And I'm working on who I think is the absolute best female speaker. I'm going to have 2 keynotes. You're number 1. And then the other one is CS, or the initials.
Oh, great. Do you ever need help? Just let me know. She's a really, really good friend.
Really? Yeah. I think she would be awesome.
She's phenomenal. I'm helping her. She's got her book launch coming out on Tuesday. Her and I are doing a Zoom together to like 15,000 people in my community to help her sell like 5,000 books.
So Cody, if you see this, Big Speak, my speaking guys out of
she's amazing.
LA are reaching out to you. We want Cody to come.
I'll text you with her directly. I'll introduce you.
I appreciate it.
Guys, Bill Faith, not spelled like Faith, Faith. It's Faeth. Go check him out. Go check out all his stuff. He's unbelievable. Go head out to his event. He also has a book coming out that should be coming out sometime in the summer, right before the event.
It'll be June or July.
Two extra steps.
It'll be #2 extra steps.
I'm going to give that to so many people in my DMs that are like, what should I do with my life? Dude, just do 2 extra steps. Like, no matter what it is that you're doing, it's just 2 extra steps. I know, but that's hard. Okay, it actually is easy because nobody else is willing to do it. You have no competition.
You've said the word hard a few times, and every time I hear you use that word hard, I think, choose your hard.
Yeah, choose your hard. There you go.
That's all, Cody.
Bill Faith, thank you. Chris, thank you so much. That's a wrap.